Good afternoon and welcome back to A Place in Space. You find us in a predicament where Greg and I are never allowed to go drinking ever again. And on a completely unrelated note, Greg is no longer allowed to stay at my house. Apart from that, there's all these out today. There's a lot. Let's do it, because there's some really cool stuff out this week. You've got Amazing Spider-Man 73, which, don't quote me, I think is the penultimate expense on the Sinister War run, I think. Let me check that before I post it. If you see an edit in the comments, you know I was wrong. Army of Darkness, 1979. Now, this is back from Dynamite with a excruciatingly brutal cover, which I adore. That's #1 out now. If you're a Gore fan, jump right in here. Let's get snazzy for just 2 seconds, because it's not an illusion. Batman Catwoman issue 7 is finally here. However, Liam Sharp is now on the artwork, which is a little bit cool. Clayman is no longer the man. Liam Sharp his stock has risen with Batman Reptilian and somewhat Green Arrow Grant Morrison recently. He's churning in some really gritty stuff in this one though, which is very cool. I like that. Speaking of Batman, Fear State Part 1 kicks off this week in Batman Proper 112, which looks delicious. I won't show you any interior pages on that because I'm sure you know the score by now, but rest assured it looks beautiful. I can't share one Aquaman this week, but I can show you a Black Manta #1. I know, finally. 75 years later, he's got his own series. Approve, I like that. Okay, A Man Who Likes to Wear Very Little is fine by me. Conan 25 is now out this week. Marvel insist they are celebrating 300 issues of that, so no doubt they've got a couple of extra covers to sell you. If, just like you and I, and you prefer a short form anthology piece full of lots of little one-shot stories, that's this, done in one. Very cool. Over to Vault super quickly for a nice little new indie. Master Mark Russell is dropping out Dead Box this week, which looks rather cool. Lovely artwork inside there. Please note that's 18 plus on that one, but looks very cool. Extreme Carnage brings you the Toxin. This is part 6 of the Extreme Carnage one-shot series overall. So that is out now. Another man who likes to wear very little. There's a theme this week. Lord of the Savage. That is Kazar out this week. Yes, there's been some toing and froing with the licenses for this particular character over the years, but Marvel insist that this is now coming to you properly from Marvel. Lord of the Savage Land, that was, sorry. Masters of the Universe issue #3. Now, I think it's safe to say that Kevin Smith has brought this title into the limelight once again. This is the penultimate part, okay? So you've only got 4 issues on this miniseries, but it has done so spectacularly well, and seemingly all of you watching this have apparently bought this. I'm sure there will definitely be a sequel. That and Netflix insist on pumping it to the moon right now. Let's get rather morose, but wonderfully so, for just a few seconds. This is Jeff Lemire's Mazebook. Quite a big chunky piece here on the wonderful boys and girls at DarkHorse. Jeff Lemire's a rather solemn chap, but incredibly so. He will give you a story which is melodramatic and empowering like none other, but it is crushing in places. If you ever read any of his bits and pieces like Sweet Tooth or perhaps The Underwater World, or For Me, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. If you haven't, don't worry. He's extremely accessible despite all those previous adjectives, but he is brutal. Give it a look. If you're after something very different, that's probably your book of the week. There is also a wonderful variant out this week which happens to star Greg, so pick that up on my behalf. I like that. Superman, Son of Kal-El, #1, debuted to massive acclaim. That was on DC, and Tom Taylor nailed it. #1 second print is out now, and flying, may I add. If you want to jump back on this series, now is your chance. Let's hit more second print super quickly, because there's a lot in there. Oh, it's massively cool. Cullen Bunn gives you his new and latest horror called The Last Book You Ever Read. I think he's lying, but you never know. That's #1 second print, just in time for #2. Scotty Young, normally a joyful chap over on Marvel Baby Variants, is bringing you his indie horror sensation of the current time. This is the Me You Love in the Dark #1 second print, just in time for #2. I know, there's a theme. And let's not get caught out by DC this week. You've got Green Lantern issue 6, in addition to the annual. Okay, that's both shipping this week. In addition to Suicide Squad issue 7, as well as the annual. Okay, so there's quite a few double whammies from DC this week. But finally, let's pause for just 2 seconds on Mr. Brian Azzarello and Alex Maleev. They're bringing you Suicide Squad Get Joker. Not one for the kids, but if you missed the early days of the DC Black Label, when editorial hands weren't getting involved in everything, and it was just awesome, very dark stories, they are nailing that. Okay, so if you want to do a nice, sexy hardcover in a bit like I will, jump right in there. If you want to get on it now, we've still got a few copies of #1 floating around as well. Few quick covers of the week, and I think we're good, ladies and gents. We've got Army of Darkness 1979. This is the Arthur Sullivan variant, which is playful but very cool. This is the Carl and Goo variant. Now, if you have been reading Batman recently, you will know the Scarecrow has gone under a bit of a revamp, shall we say. Debuting there to great aplomb, because that's just bloody gorgeous. In addition to, look quite closely at this one, because it's a little bit complex and detailed to see. Lucilla Perillo has dropped in the VHS style variant there. Pause that, have a look. It's beautiful. But finally, this was a little bit late. Yes, all the covers for it shipped last week, and it's dragged in this week. But this is Demon Days Curse Web, and this is the Jenny Frischen variant, which I couldn't adore more if I tried to. Ladies and gents, that's cool. I shall see you in around about a week.